Hi everyone, I am so excited. I think we finally have a setup and for coloring so that I could put the colorful back in the colorful Booknester. Haven't been able to do that. I am going to be working on a very small book. It is Johanna Basford's 2022 Weekly Color Planner. There have been some great flip throughs and everything. I'm not going to do a flip through because that just isn't really my thing. I let everybody else do that. Instead, what I wanted to tell you is what kind of my plans going for 2022 are. And this is a perfect week to be doing that because we only have 2 days this week of 2022. And then we will start right into the next week. But one of the reasons that I've chose this is because if you know anything about my life right now, we are in very small quarters, my husband and I, moving from having 2 properties to having 1, and that 1 property being a 1-bedroom apartment across from New York City. And so space is of a premium, and all of my normal coloring materials are in storage right now. Hopefully, in 2022, they will see the light of day. But so what I did instead was go, one of the things I love doing is Johanna Basford. She is one of those coloring, or those colorists or artists who is putting out tons of coloring material for us on a pretty consistent basis. And I really want to support her in any way I can. And right now I can't really go and buy the big books. There's no point in them. I do have Inky Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. I have that one here. It's the only one of I think I have 3 books, and she's one of the 3 that I brought with me here into the apartment. But I decided to get the planner because it is much smaller, as you can see. It is, and it has so many of her very veritable different book pictures from her books. I'm not speaking very well. I apologize. This is actually going to be a lot tougher than I thought. I didn't remember it being so difficult. But, and I've decided that what I want to do is a picture a week and kind of be working on the picture of the week. So this is the last week in 2021. And this is the December, January, starting with the 27th, as you can see over here. And this is a very, very typical Johanna Basford type of page in that it is full of tiny details. Now, I did post a picture on Instagram, and I posted it to show the beginning of this. And then I was experimenting to see if my pencils that I'm going to be kind of required to use is going to work in this book. And they have actually pretty well. They are a little bit different, and I'll talk about them a little bit more. But I did want to let you know that they are let's see. Whoop. Does that do it any better? I love these. It's the Castle brand. So it's a Castle Art Soft Touch. I have 2 sets of, I think, 25 in each one of them. They have kind of these really cool sets. Let me just show you the front of this. Now, I have already taken from this set, but I went ahead and got a 24, not 25. So these are in nice little metal tins. They're easy to move around. I actually have 2. I have this one and the portrait set. However, I've already mixed those colors up so that when I open this, because it's so easy to kind of keep everything together, this has a mix of both the botanical collection, this collection, and the portrait collection as well. There's a mix of those. So I've made my own, but this is one of the reasons I wanted to get these tins. They're very small, very compact, as you can see, in comparison with the size of the planner. They're almost the exact same size, so we're talking very small and tiny. I love that these are metal because that's going to make them hold up longer, which is good because gosh knows how long I'm going to be here having to do this. But I've created a palette. It is a pretty simple palette with 24 colors. Just so happened it turned out to be 24. It was kind of perfect. Could have done that if I had tried. But these are all the colors that I'm using in that picture. And this is another way, with me being in a smaller area, to be able to kind of tone down the amount of supplies that I have, because I have a very small table to work on. I have a small apartment to keep them in, and I need to be able to easily pick up and clean up, because this table that I'm using right now is also our dining table. So Everything has multi-purposes here. But as we go back to the first page in here, you can see that that is my color palette, and I'm going to continue on with that color palette. I think doing color palettes and trying to minimize the amount of colors that you have going on in something like this kind of really busy page is so helpful for me. A, getting through it so much quicker, and B, also for kind of making it's busy, but it won't feel as busy because there's a cohesion about it, I guess, is kind of how I look at it. So without too much further ado, let me go ahead and get all set up, and then we will come back and I'll just chat to you while I do some coloring. All right, so we're a lot closer now, as you can see. And what I'm thinking that we're going to be doing is I'm going to be slowly working through this. Now, I am going to be doing a series, hopefully, of shorter videos doing different things in each one of them, but I thought that we would be working on the planner just to kind of, I can do some coloring, I can do some chatting, and also keep my coloring sessions maybe a little bit shorter than they've been in the past, because sometimes I mean, like this whole section up here, this section up here probably was over 3 hours, 4 hours of coloring. So, you know, that's a lot shorter than how I normally do it, to be honest with you. The smaller color palette helped, and then also the fact that this is a much smaller picture. There's some challenges with that. But what I wanted to show you was that one of the reasons that I really like this planner too, as you can see, is that I can keep a list of the colors. This was when I was kind of messing with and kind of come up with especially that dark blue. I really wanted to kind of keep track of what colors I was using to get that blue, because I knew I was going to do it throughout the page. And so it was lovely having this over here to the side to kind of do that. And I'll be using this side to keep notes and things. And of course, also, as we're going along, I want to be able to let you guys know what colors I'm using. And so when I go back to edit my video, I'll be able to put the numbers and the names in fairly quickly. So, and this is a way to keep them together. All right, so let me go ahead. The other thing I like is that I can flip this book back. And now the book is only this size, which is perfect for my lap desk. It's perfect on here, because again, this is not a big table. It's a little bistro style table, so I'm able to still color but have all this space, and then also this book now becomes a little bit easier for me to just manage in this area, and I can bring you in a little bit closer. So the only challenge we have is that my color names are not as handy, but we will work through this. That's really my notes for whenever I go to actually do the editing here. So I've already started this little area here with the blue background. I'm going to go ahead and do the blue background going across, and we can kind of talk about the colors and the sequence in which I'm using them at this point. This is kind of interesting. I really wanted that deep blue. So the very first one that I'm going to be using, now again, these are my Castle Art Soft Touch. So one of the things I will suggest with how small this is, and this is, you know, they have shrunken these pictures down, is you're going to need pretty sharp pencils. And this is another reason why I kind of went with Castle Arts. I appreciated their smaller price tag. They are not something that I can replace individually, as far as I know. The fact that I'm sharpening so much just to keep that point could be mean that I go through them very quickly. Now here we go, guys. You've not been able to see me do this for a long time, and if anybody here is new and is watching, welcome, welcome, welcome. But let me just preface a couple things. So my longtime watchers know this. I do small ovals for all of my coloring. A, it's a huge habit that I can't even get out of. B, I think it cuts down on the number. Now, here's a drinking game you might want to do with the old colorful Booknester, and that is every time she says the word striations, you just take a drink of whatever you're drinking. Be aware that if it is alcoholic, you could be out and not be able to watch the rest of this video fairly quickly, because I like to use the term striations, but that is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. With my little circular ovals and very light pressure, because the next thing you're going to hear me do, and again, another drinking game you might want to do while listening to the colorful Booknester prattle on with her coloring, is layers. So, it's kind of like either Sesame Street, my coloring is brought to you by the word layers, or it's like you might turn into, if anybody remembers Pee-wee's Playhouse, they had a word of the day, and every time the whole place would just erupt in screams and yells. So this could be word of the day is striation, and everybody goes, ah, because you might be tired of hearing it. But my little ovals seem to work for me to be able to really blend. It also allows me to hold way back on my pencil. That's also the pointed, the very pointy tip helps as well. To hold back on my pencil to keep those layers from getting too heavy too quickly. And the reason for that is I am mixing. If you look at this blue, it doesn't look anything like these blues. And if I were to just come in and start pushing down hard, these pencils seem to do better in my layering with the light touch. They are not as heavy pigmented as the Prismacolors that I have. So because of that, I would say I think that this process works pretty well. So I'm just kind of going over a couple places. I want the blue there. So that is Delft blue. Luckily, they do have both numbers and names, because if I mispronounce a name or you can't understand what I'm saying, because who knows with my accent, and where we're all from, it makes perfect sense. So the next color that I'm going to be wrapping up in here, now this one's interesting. I'm also going to need to sharpen it. This one, I'm coming in with a brown. So my blue I'm trying to achieve is actually inspired by the color that I wanted to use in my she shed or my art shed or just my gardening shed when we lived in Vermont. And I consider it a very earthy, dark blue. And so I'm just coming in to kind of make it a little bit more earthy and stuff. We're going to use burnt umber. So that is number 068, burnt umber. And again, just going back over and see, this is part of it too, is that by doing those little circles and the fact that I don't have any striations or lines. Hope I didn't color in the middle of the key or here in the middle of the key. So I have to come back in on my blue. Oh, all of them. Oh, now see, this is where those little tiny details of Johanna gets really, really quite tough. Johanna. Well, of course, she's like, yeah, but you're supposed to buy my full-size coloring book. My understanding is that this page is from the World of Flowers. Is it? Hold on. Now, see, this is something else I'm trying to do because I don't have all of her books, and I can't get to them to reference them. Let's see. I wrote right down here, yep, World of Flowers. So this page you can also find if you have World of Flowers, should be in there, and you haven't colored it yet. You could even use this as a suggestion. If I was doing this with green instead of blue, which it was kind of my thought process, but I knew I had a lot of green with all the plants, but you could do it in a beautiful deep green, earthy green. You could do it with even more of probably what they call grayish, that beige and gray deep color. You could have done it in brown for a deep background if you wanted that, and then it would just look more like just the back of a book, book shelving unit kind of thing, or in this case, a gardening shelving unit. But this color was inspired by many, many pictures that I had looked at when trying to figure out how I would probably decorate my little she shed up there, and that just never came to fruition. And of course, we've moved now, so now I get to do it in my coloring book. So this is probably the color I would have at least one of the walls in there. I just love how the deepness of it. All right, so that is our second layer. Remember, layer, layer, layer. Now I'm going to go ahead and come in with yet a little bit more of a deeper color. And you'll understand in a while, you know, some of these layers, it just like it changes the color completely. Well, once I go back in and try to kind of blend them all together, you'll see what I'm using. I really can't talk a lot about these castle arts other than I had seen them in and around. You know, I do stalk you guys, you colorists out there on YouTube, and I use YouTube just like anybody who's sitting here listening to me gab on. I use it as a resource, you know, just like you guys do. And part of that is I use it as a resource for research. I don't have tons of art. I mean, okay, I have a lot of art supplies, you know, or coloring supplies, but I don't typically go out and buy every single pencil set that comes out. That's not really what I do on my channel. In fact, most of the time you will find me either coloring with Prismacolors, because I like the idea that most people have a Prismacolor set, and in my hands, Prismas feel very, very comfortable. I have a set of Faber-Castells, but there's only certain books I really like to use them in. Now, remember, all these supplies are locked up, so I can't even get to them anyways. But my other one that you'll see me predominantly use here on the channel is Crayolas. I absolutely love the Crayolas, particularly in one book, which I'm so sad. I can't think of the name right now, but I'll pop in the thumbnail from some of the videos that I did. It's, oh, gosh, Thomas somebody, and he's not made anymore, and getting his coloring books are really, really tough, but I love them. But whatever paper he had in them worked so well for Crayolas. So when I started looking at this, now just let you know, that was the ivory black. I don't know that I said that. We know it'll be up here on the screen, but I didn't say it. And then we come in with our, not final layer, but our next layer. All right, this is your 043 Ultramarine. And this will be another blue that we're putting on. So, typically, I mean, a lot of my videos are Prismacolors or the Crayolas. I did do a review on the Spierer Farbens, and I liked them. My biggest thing is that it's hard for me with all these different ones that you can't get individual colors replaced. That's kind of like my holy grail thing, or you need to be really, really inexpensive. And I need to like a lot of your colors for me to, you know, want to buy another set. So I have a few different sets. Right now, these castle arts I totally got from watching, they kind of look like a newish, I'm not gonna say new, but it was, well, they were new to me, brand that seems to be in quite a different places here on YouTube, and also fairly easy to get. I could be talking out of turn right now because it is around the holidays, so who knows what's actually left out there, right? But one of the reasons I did decide to get these was, number one, some of the reviews basically said that, you know, they were good for a lesser expensive type of pencil, and also just, or budget friendly, I should say. And also these 24 packs were really interesting to me because they were the 10s, and for me right now, storage and ease of cleaning up is quite important. So I'm still going around. As you see, I'm getting to that next layer. I'm going to put a little bit more of this blue on there. And then I'm going to, because this blue, it kind of lifts it. It's nice. If you notice, this probably has a lot more ultramarine in it than, let's say, these backgrounds do. It lifts it. And what's really great is when you go to, it gives that illusion that, or not illusion, it actually lets you know it really is blue. It's not black. It's not brown. It's it is a blue color more so. But I am going to put one other layer before I do my little, well, my blending that I'm going to do. Now, doing these little circles and doing it very lightly and getting this many layers on it is because I have not broken the tooth. And I think that that's really the bigger key too, like I said, with the circles and keeping it light. I'm able to get a lot of layers because I've not pushed so hard, and I'm doing it in circles, that I really don't have to be worried that I'm going to break the tooth of the paper. All right, now we're just kind of redoing. I want to come in with my Delft Blue one last time. And this time I'm going to really take my time and do some tiny, and you can see it's starting to blend on its own. Now these, when I put them down, these castle arts are pretty cool, because when I put them down, they are actually mixing just a little bit, I've noticed. Not as much as I want. You still get a little bit of that white showing through, but they are starting to mix. And it took, what was that, 5 layers? Whew, if anybody's drinking to the word layer, I'm sorry. You're probably already out. I hope you have a good night. I hope you took some aspirin. Maybe I should preface that before that drinking game. Make sure you have aspirin in your system. Advil, whatever you take, Tylenol, some type of pain reliever if you're drinking to that. But they're mixing fine on this paper. There is not a lot I can say. As far as any other papers, but right now the Johanna Basford books and their papers, and that's one thing I really like about Johanna Basford too, is that even on this planner we still get her paper, which makes it really great. I know I love my Prismacolors in Johanna's books for blendability, and gotta remember to go in there and get all those little tiny spots. It is really fiddly. Particularly because it's shrunken, but just keep your pencil sharp. You should be able to get in there pretty easily. All right, so what I'm going to do now is actually do my blending. Now for me, well, I say I'm going to do my blending. Hold on, let me go get my brush. So again, for all those that are long time watchers, they know exactly what I'm using, and that is I am using a paintbrush and Gamsol. So Gamsol is a name brand of like a white mineral spirits that actually melts and blends, and I don't know that if you can see it or not, but this is actually melting and blending, and it almost ends up looking like it's filling in all of those little white spots if there are any. It is, sorry, a little concentration there. I may or may not have my tongue sticking out while I'm doing this, but it blends these colors and almost gives a look of a deep watercolor, which I like. I'm not great with markers. Again, they leave striations, most other than the alcohol markers, and I don't want to use alcohol markers in my books. I could easily in this one, and that would be kind of a fun thing if I had any. I don't have any alcohol markers. They're all in storage. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So I wouldn't be able to use them, but maybe in the future, if I ever get to unpack that storage, we can use them on one of the this Johanna Basford, because if it goes through the paper to the other side, it's just marking up the dates and not actual pictures. So maybe that would be kind of fun. I feel like I could be a lot more adventurous in this book than I would a normal, just to kind of play around, see. So this should look pretty good in most cases. However, as far as with the blue, actually that does look really good. I don't know that I'm going to need to do anything further. So that's kind of the 5-layer step, and then you blend it with the Gamsol. I could now, because I've not, and just to show you, Gamsol over here, can you see that? That's where it was at, right there. that will completely dry. So this whole top of this page has been Gamsoled at some point. And as you can see, there's nothing left on this. So this will completely dry and it doesn't mess with the paper. The paper's still intact. In fact, I can go in and add more colors on that layer if I wanted to. So there's that option, which is another reason why I like the Gamsol versus the blenders. The pencil blenders just really, I never could get them to work without actually messing up the paper, like burnishing it. And they just exhausted my hands. And you can use, I mean, any cheap small brush that you possibly have on hand. I like this one with this little wedge because I can get, turn it sideways and get those points in there. And then also it can be kind of a little bit wider if I have more space. It's more universally useful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish out this over here. Now, something you'll see that I'm doing, and I'll just kind of keep chatting with you. So we're starting over again with the 041 Delft Blue. One of the things that I'm doing is in this particular case, is the arrangement of how I'm coloring it. I am coloring it from the top down. I'm also basically coloring, in the idea being a straight line. In this case, we do have a straight line, but in this case, I did just this picture first, and I did the complete part of that picture. And I finished that picture, everything before moving to the next. And then I got this line going. And I kind of did that for each one of these very individual. Once I got to here where I could kind of do all the blue, like in this case, now I can do straight across. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want to drag my hand across this. Now, I am a big one about backgrounds, something else to learn about me. I do love doing backgrounds. I find them very soothing, therapeutic, and they just add so much to so many of the pictures. I do not do very complicated backgrounds. Mine usually take a lot of time, but I actually kind of like that. But what I do is a lot of times we'll do the full background and then go back up, and in this case, these colors are pretty intense, and I have noticed, again, let me just flip over here, that when left on its own, we're getting a bit of smudgy over here from those colors. So I'm assuming that if I'm dragging my hand across those colors, I'm gonna get smudgy over here, and then I could actually end up bringing it down to the rest of the picture, and I don't want smudgy. Yes, you can go look up smudgy. Don't know. Don't know. Sometimes me and my language, but that's what I don't want schmutz. I don't want to schmutz it. So doing it from this, plus it allows me to kind of I look at these as little individual pictures, each one of these all framed out. And if you notice, I've even done the frame already as I'm moving down. I just don't do the next one in line. Part of that is because I can, if I get out of line with any of these darker colors, or whenever I go to blend it, you can cover it up with the brown board kind of look. So it kind of works well. Hide your flaws wherever you can. So anyway, I'm just going to keep going with my circles all the way across. And once I get all of these done across from here, then I can come in and start doing the individual items that we see here, each one of these. You know what? I'm going to bring you in even a little bit closer. Hold on. There. I just realized I could have you in really, really close. As tiny as these things are. So when I'm looking at this is a perfect example. It is a darker blue, or it just doesn't seem to have as strong of a blue color. You kind of can still see the black and the browns kind of coming out. So I think I'm going to go over it, and I've already Gamsoled, as you saw. I've already blended it once. So now I think I'm going to go over it one more time with, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the brown and my Delft, well, goodness, what do? Do I do the ultramarine and the Delft? I think I'm going to go ahead and do the ultramarine over the top, and then I can do the Delft blue. So I think that's what I'm going to do, just to kind of balance it out a little bit more. So what's kind of interesting, like I said, you can actually, which you can probably see it going on, you can actually, because I haven't destroyed the tooth of that paper, it's a little bit slicker than it was, but yet a lot of the pigment is coming off of the pencil. But I can go over it, but that's because I have not destroyed that tooth by using the Gamsol, instead of using a blender, which causes me, now this again, it is totally because I think how I use a blender. I've probably never been taught how to do it properly, but I really end up pushing a lot, and it just, like I said, it really exhausts my my hands. You can see I'm still doing the circles, but every once in a while just going straight across as well. I'm not just worried about those striations because we're going to Gamsol this one in, so it should melt pretty well. But you can see I'm getting a little bit more blue on there. And each one of these little boxes have been kind of unique like that, and I do like that they look different, because I would think the boxes and with light, even if this is not been painted, like it doesn't have a back, let's say this is the wall that it's up against, you would get the slightly different variations of blue based on what's in the box and each shelf, and angle of light and how much light can get in depending on how large it is. So I kind of like that they are not all identical, because I don't think they would be, and I think a dark color would show that. If it was but it's also, it's my coloring, so I guess you can probably come up with any reason. Right, we're going to go through and do the Gamsol one more time, kind of blend it, and I think we might have that color that I'm hoping for. But this one's actually more fiddly. It's weird to say, but a little bit harder because of these little wiggly plants everywhere. There we go. You really start pushing that pigment around where you can see it. So again, I was able to go up to 2 more layers, which for a total of how many layers? Let's see, 4, 9, about 11 layers. I told you, I'm the queen of layers. I just keep layering. I do admire those that can just go right in and they can really push on their Prismas and put a lot of, they're very committed to a color. I am, but I always worry that I'm not going to be able to, add any shading, so it's just easier for me to go in lightly. Plus, as I always say, with the with coloring and also with my slow reading, I get hours and hours of entertainment out of something that only costs $15. So can't say that about going to the movies. It's over in 2.5 hours. And if you want to watch it again, you got to pay for it to be on a service or rent it, or so. All right. Now let me bring you back out a little bit. There we go. And you can see, so I think that's a better color overall. So that was good because I was able to show you how needing to put on more. I didn't need to in the smaller box as much, but this one I feel like I needed to go and put that next layer over. So that kind of finishes that row. So now what we'll be doing is coming back in. Here, let me move this so it's a little bit straighter for you guys. So that row there has all the blue. So now it's all about coming in and coloring each one of these independently. And again, I have a limited color palette, so I'm kind of working with yellows and orange and creams and greens and a few blues here and there. So I'll be talking you through that as we go into each one of these, like how do I kind of make that decision and planning it and thinking of it in my head. So this is, this will repeat for the final steps here. This one's going to be tricky because of that, the glass, and then this one with the light is also kind of tricky. So we'll probably be doing that one on a more individual basis once I get it ready to go. So, all right, well, yep, so our next step is going to be going in and doing all those individual elements.